What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of All Things Super. I am one of your hosts, Spider, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. How are you doing today, sir?
I am infinitely awesome.
Not how it works.
What do you
Not how
mean?
it works.
We're having some technical difficulties here at All Things Super, so if I sound uninfinitely awesome, check your audio. It's not coming through clearly.
It's just one of those days.
That's accurate. Like Monica? Yes, I dated myself.
I think we did that.
Dated myself?
No, I said
Yes.
I think we did that. We
to
started
say,
yeah. Don't take it personal. We started a show and started talking about that song.
So when I say I dated myself, I mean I had to pick up the tab. That's where I was going with it.
I mean, sometimes you got to take yourself out on a date.
I mean, if it was, I actually went Dutch, but it ended up having a.
Can you go Dutch with yourself?
I paid with two different cards. The way my account is set up, my checking goes to, so it's okay. Sometimes you gotta love yourself enough to go Dutch.
Okay. We'll roll with that. Sure.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. If you don't know what this is All Things Super, where every week we take a piece of superpower TV, movie, even trailers. We watch them, we review them, we react to them, we break them down, and we answer the question, is it super?
Is it?
Is it?
Kinda?
Maybe. We'll see.
Jeez,
but if you like that, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out. If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on any of the major podcast streaming platforms. And if you want to join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And leave a comment, because we like reading the comments. If you don't read the comments, you're scared. I did it. I said they scared. If they don't, you scared.
If you ain't scared, leave a comment.
If you ain't scared.
What Bone Crusher said, I ain't never scared.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now who's dating themselves?
Listen.
Which is younger than one of those days, by the way.
It is.
Sir, we are here to talk about In Legacy, probably one of the most known, documented, maybe even underrated underdog stories in all of cinema. Transitioning on to a underdog, maybe even underrated series of underdog stories.
I'm like, where are you going with this? You're throwing out so many adjectives.
Yeah, I've been reading the dictionary lately.
Not where you find those.
That's why I'm lost. No, man. They clicked the thumbnail. They know what it is. And if it's your first time to the channel, welcome. Hi, I'm Mr. VIP, Frankie Washington. That's Spider over there. This is kind of what we do. We give you great conversation. It's an unscripted show. Just enjoy the ride. With that being said, what he said.
It's definitely conversation.
It's conversation.
Yeah,
nothing else.
Conversation.
Well, sometimes we we bring up some thought-provoking stuff sometimes, sir.
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll agree with that.
Yeah. We ask the questions not everyone asks. Because, this is a fandom that we do. And, for the fans, we give them a little something different that you won't get at some of those formulaic shows. You know who we're talking about. They're our friends. We're not mad about it. Go there if you want a formulaic show. Expect the unexpected here. That's all I'm saying. It's all things super.
Very true.
Different difficult it is to point at your chest and talk at the same time? Well, then it's easy for you. Okay, that's not that hard. Okay, never mind. But we're talking about the underdog story of underdog stories, sir. Transitioning from a veteran actor who had to literally fight to get the movie that he wrote, to star in the movie that he wrote, transitioning all the way to a character that we did not know exist, to directing a movie that he's now in. Whew, how's that for meta for you? That's meta-ish. That's not really meta. It's like meta. It's kind of meta. It's like it's not really in the category of meta, but it's like around the corner from meta, like reality.
Just letting all of this just play out.
Well, I'm just saying what it is. Is it not that? Tell me if it's not that. Is it not that?
I don't know what it is that you're trying to say to whether agree with you or not agree with you. It's meta-ish, but not really meta. It's around the corner, down the street, across the city from meta. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Sound like you know the address. Sound like you know exactly where it's at.
I know how to repeat exactly what you just said. But regardless,
I ain't say all that.
it ain't right. We're going to be discussing Creed and Creed 2. We're preparing for the release of Creed 3, which is coming out this week. I know for us, we're going to be seeing it in just a couple days ahead of its release.
Yeah.
A little early screening action.
Because we got that access, and it's not a flex, but if you don't have that access, I'm sorry. That's all I can say. We got it like that. No, what I'm saying was it's known that Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky.
Right.
Boom. That's known. And they were pitching Rocky, and they were saying that Sylvester Stallone wasn't supposed to be in Rocky.
Right.
And Sylvester Stallone was like, in fact, Henry Winkler, the Fonz, date myself again, is told this story about how he got Rocky to the right people, and they wanted to make Rocky, but they didn't want Sly Stallone in it. And Sylvester Stallone asked Henry not to do that to him. So I seen that interview, and I was like, wow, that's deep. That's powerful. And then, of course, you get Rocky 1. Classic, underdog story, legendary. Wasn't he fighting Mr. T in the Rocky 1, right?
No, he didn't fight Mr. T until Rocky 3.
Well, who he fought in Rocky 1?
I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen the first Rocky.
So Rocky, true underdog story. I don't even think he won that first match, and I think that was a whole setup for having Rocky be the underdog, getting close enough to the victory, but missing it, and that was the reality of it, because that's just what it was. Which everybody always leaves Rocky like, oh man, Rocky was robbed, all this, all that, setting up the Rocky universe. Then we come back with Rocky 2. Is Rocky 2 when he fought Drago?
No, that was Rocky 4. Rocky 2 was the first time he fought Apollo.
Apollo Creed.
Well, did he fight Apollo or Rocky?
Mr. Carl Weathers. Well, that would be interesting if he did. I thought he fought him in 3, but I was wrong.
No.
Because you said he fought Mr. T in 3.
Yeah, he fought
which makes sense. 3. Yeah, when he fought?
He fought Drago in 4.
Right.
And that's when Apollo died.
So when did he fight Apollo?
I think he fought Apollo either in 1 or 2. Well, because he said, I think maybe he fought him in 1 and 2. Because, and of course, like we said, 2023, no spoilers. We're hopping right into talking about the movie. Donnie told him, he said,
we in it.
Donnie said, I know about 2 fights, but there was I heard that there was a secret third fight.
Right.
And that was at the end of
Rocky 2.
That was at the end of Rocky 2?
I could have sworn it was at the end of Rocky 2. When they were in the ring and they said, ding,
it was just
ding.
Yeah, it was just the 2 of them.
And they had the epic this way and that way, kind of like yin and yang, kind of,
freeze
freeze frame.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Cinema at its finest, right? Underdog story, Rocky coming in this goddamn thing, fighting to get to a point where he could play his own character. So that's what I was saying when I was saying he was fighting to get in his own movie. Legendary legacy, because not only did we have 6 Rockies, we transitioned to Rocky 7, which was Creed. Rocky 8, which is Creed 2. And I'll say Rocky 9, but it's not really Rocky because it's Creed. It's a story. It's a twist. It's a spinoff. It's a very tastefully done spinoff.
Well, I would say that Creed 1 and Creed 2, yeah, I could see that being Rocky 7 and Rocky 8. Creed 3, being that Sylvester Stallone isn't connected to the movie outside of executive producing, I would say that Creed 3 is going to be the first story centered solely around Adonis Creed. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
And because I was watching it, I was thinking about it. I feel like this is kind of, and I know we always bring things back to the MCU. This is kind of like Spider-Man's story.
Do we?
Yeah. Yes, we do. This is it's kind of like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where we are dealing with, like you say, a legacy character. So we have,
right,
in Spider-Man, you have Tom Holland's Peter Parker dealing with the ramifications of what Tony Stark has done, right? In the first one, in Spider-Man Homecoming, you have Adrian Toomes. He's, doing cleanup from Battle of New York. EODC comes in. They say, hey, this is our jurisdiction. You guys got to go. And it's like, well, this is how I feed my family. How are you going to kick me off this job? It was like, well, take it up with, basically not directly taking up with Tony Stark, but Tony Stark was, I don't remember what his role was with the EODC, but he basically had some control over it. Didn't he? Did he? Was that the way that they played that in the movie?
Well, he was doing damage, the Department of Damage Control, because of all the collateral damage that they were doing from Age of Ultron.
Right.
So he's saying he was going to start help cleaning up the things, which, wait a minute, was Age of Ultron before the Battle of New York?
No. That's the second Avengers movie. Right? Battle of New York was the first Avengers movie.
You're right. So what happened? He started taking ownership to collateral damage because you've seen this play out, because remember when he was fighting the Hulk overseas, they were in Africa, and he bought the building because he knew he was going to slam Hulk into the building and collapse the building. He instantly purchased it, which I don't know how his genius ass was able to do that because it was under construction already.
I don't think that's the way that works.
Yeah, well, in the MCU, apparently so.
When you have enough money, you can do whatever the hell you want, apparently.
Yeah, 3 times over asking price. I guess that's how paperwork is signed digitally. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know what? I can't even argue with that because a lot of the stuff
in a matter of seconds, in a matter of
a lot of the stuff I have to sign for work now, since we're working from home, it does get signed digitally. So, he got AIs. The AIs can do it. They can take care of it. But regardless, so we're dealing with Peter Parker dealing with the ramifications of what Tony Stark has done and trying to kind of overcome that. Same thing with Spider-Man Far From Home. We're dealing with Quentin Beck. He feels wronged by Tony Stark. He's trying to manipulate Peter into giving him the eat his glasses, to take control of the Stark drones, do all of this other kind of stuff. And this is the same way.
I always had a question about that. Real fast, since we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
What drones was he using to cast the elementals in the first place?
Well, he created those, but it was the same drone. Well, it's not the same drone, but he had this. Just basically, it was just illusion tech that he created himself, because he created Barf, right? Because they retconned the call. Where Tony said that this is called Barf, and so he created this digital projection holographic imaging to where memories could be projected into real life.
Okay.
And so he had the technology to do that already. It's just that he didn't have it enough. The drones that he got from Tony allowed him to do it on a much, much larger scale. So he already had the technology to do it on his own. It's just that he was able to do it on an even bigger scale once he got the drones.
But when excuse me, when the Skrull showed up to fight the first elemental, this thing was larger than a building.
Yeah.
The sand guy. So how much larger on a bigger scale could he have done it? I mean, the elemental that showed up in Italy again, was before he had the glasses, did damage. It was able to knock down a whole tower. Spider-Man had to save it from collapsing on people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
No, and I agree with you. I'm just saying. Well, and also, I don't think his had weapons on him.
Even
the Star drones had weapons on them.
But the fire element was able to knock down the whole Ferris wheel. Wasn't it? Didn't it knock down the Ferris wheel?
I think
they had to get Ned and the young girl out of there.
Betty. I think what he wanted to do was, I think what his goal was to tarnish the Stark name. Because at this point, this is when Tony had died. He had sacrificed himself in the Endgame, so everybody revered Iron Man as a hero. And of course, he had this bad blood against Tony, and so he wants to take his legacy and tarnish it. He wants everybody to see Tony as the way that he sees him. So how else would you do that?
Come in like a hero.
No, I think that
Two birds, one stone.
that was his objective in order to get in and get the technology, because we saw that he had been following Peter this whole entire time. So he already knew Peter had the glasses. So he portrayed himself as a hero. Portray himself as a hero so that way he could get the glasses from Peter. So just basically like place himself close to Peter. That's why he was working with the Skrulls, Nick Fury and Maria Hill, but trying to integrate himself in the Shield, make himself look like a hero so they feel like they could trust him, so he could end up getting the technology from him.
I'm going to quote the late great Tony Stark and say, "Not a good plan. Not a good plan. I think there's some gaps in your planning process. Not a great plan."
That's why he wasn't in charge and Tony was. But all I'm saying is that we're following the same sort of kind of through line with Creed, because we have Donnie fighting these demons almost because of his father's legacy, right? Because of his father's name, he goes into it not wanting to use his father's name, wanting to make it on his own, going by the name of Adonis Johnson, and it's not until Rocket decides to train him because he feels some sort of guilt, some sort of responsibility, because had he thrown in the towel in the Creed Drago fight, then Apollo probably will still be alive, right?
Yeah.
So this is his son. Of course, Rocky didn't know anything about his son. And so we get in the first Creed and he's fighting Leo, right? He goes to the gym. He tries Rocky's mixed gym. He goes in the mixed gym, try to get him to train them. The guy who's there, Pete, he's like, "Listen, I'll train you when I can." But right now he's focused on his own son. He's focused on Leo, trying to get him into a heavyweight fight. Pete had been trying to get Rocky to come to the gym. He's like, "Look, you can train my kid. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. Come train him." And Rocky was like, nah, I don't do that anymore. And then all of a sudden, this kid Hollywood comes rolling up in here, and all of a sudden, you back in the gym? I've been asking you for years to come and train my son, but now you come back. Hollywood show up, and he's like, okay, so obviously something is going on. He does some digging. They find out that this is Creed's son, and it's not until Donnie whips Leo's ass in the ring. I think it was 2 rounds. He knocked him out. That Pete was feeling a little salty, so Pete was like, "I'm going to expose you," and so of course he puts it out there. Hate was real strong, man. So Pete puts it out there that this is Creed's the legitimate son, and so of course one of the greatest champions in the history of boxing, and Apollo Creed. Now he has a son, and he's boxing, so of course tabloids are going to run crazy with it.
Of course, it's like Michael Jordan's son plays basketball,
right? And so we get the first, I guess, villain of Creed, we get Pretty Ricky Conlon.
Pretty
And
Ricky.
I
Okay.
say villain because it's basically just
You did say villain.
the antagonist, I should say, because that's more accurate. The antagonist of the movie, Pretty Ricky Conlon. And so Ricky, basically, he's heavyweight fighter. He was a champ, and he was supposed to fight whatever the kid's name was. I forget.
I'm doing this so it can come to me, and it's not. So I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm trying to remember his handle name.
Danny Stuntman Wheeler.
The Stuntman, yeah. Oh yeah, Stuntman.
Who knocked Creed on his ass. He whooped Donnie's ass.
Devastating. Here's what I do like.
Mm-hmm.
First Creed, they're showing the boxers and they do the little flash of their stats.
Yeah,
that was nice. That was nice for the intro to people that maybe not follow boxing so much. And not to say that all these guys were legitimate fighters or not legitimate fighters. That little
I think they all were. Well, I think everybody that they put stats for, I think they were all legitimate fighters.
Either way, it was great to have that little stat. It's just an editing thing that I appreciated for a boxing movie.
Yeah.
So it lets you know that, wow, this guy's undefeated. This guy's not a guy that you want to just, talk shit to, which later on becomes a thing.
Right. But so Ricky's supposed to fight Stuntman, but Ricky's gone to jail because he got caught up on gun charges. So he comes out. He's supposed to fight Stuntman. They go to the weigh-in. Ricky punches Stuntman in the face, breaks his jaw. So the fight's off. And so it's like, well,
he gonna get sued.
Right. But it's like, you have to fight, because if you don't fight, then of course, basically your career is over. So he's like, and one thing that
he had to fight because he was going to jail.
Yeah.
So he was trying to get a fight in. He was trying to make money for his kids, or at least his manager was trying to get him some money before he went to jail. But big thing about this, though, let's dive in deep before we go into that aspect. We start out with a young Adonis, troubled kid, and I'm bringing this up because it clearly is going to play a part in part 3. So he had a troubled youth. Mm-hmm. And of course, he didn't have his father to raise him.
His mom died when he was young.
And Apollo Creed's wife did not know anything about him until later on. She found out about him, and she, out the kindness of her heart, because she could have not done this at all.
Shout out to the great Felicia Rashad.
Legend. She goes to get Donnie from out of, obviously, this
juvenile detention
I don't want to call it. I wasn't going to call it that.
That's exactly what it was.
It was. And you can see early in the game that he's been fighting because he feels as though he got a chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove. Now, take that, insert Miss Rashad. He's now on a better path. Straight and narrow. He got a job at a finance company, accounting firm of some sort. Mm-hmm. Not only that, recently got promoted. Love this. Got an
office and everything.
Love this. Why? Because it shows that he's not an unintelligent man. He has the job. He has the corner office coming, all that. The bells, the whistles, the oatmeal, the cappuccino maker, all of it. Right? Part-time hookers on the side. He gets it. It's in the budget. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I know. There's benefits. He walks away from all of this because the man wants to get it out the mud. He's not even in the mud. He wants to get it from the streets. He's not even in the streets. His mother is well off. They live in a very nice house.
Yes.
So the idea to take from this, like, you don't need this. This is something that you're truly passionate about, that you want it. And I think that makes a difference in the story, because it's not like he was coming from the streets, which, again, when he goes to the gym, his father's gym, right? Working with his father's people, they're talking to him like, go do something else. Like these kids out here, this is how they eat. Like this is their way out. They're not pulling punches. They are not holding back. They're going in here with a kill or be killed mindset. You're not from this life.
Mm-hmm.
This is not you. And they wouldn't train him. Which sets Adonis on the path of, I'm going to go all the way to Philly and find a guy who trained my father.
Right.
Which, of course, because he heard about the stories. Telling his mother this, look, I gave up finance because this is what I have to do. The streets, they calling me to come back to the streets. He on the way to Philly. Never been to Philly before. He gets there, get him a little place. Again, he had a little money, but mom's not about to back that. Oh, she already said, you want brain damage? You want to be drug out the ring? You want to be killed like your father? Is that what you want? Is this what you want? He on his own. Man goes out there, finds Sylvester Stallone, asks him to train him. Sly says, no.
Pretty much.
Think about how devastating that is. Yeah, you don't put it all on the line. You don't get a dollar in a dream. You done gave it up. You done head out there. I heard you train my father. I heard you train my father. You know what I'm saying? And Sly is like, nah. I didn't even know you existed, kid. I'm sorry about your father because you know the history. Man says no. He goes down to Mickey's gym, and that's where we pick up what you were talking about. You know, you can work out here. I'll get to you when I can, but I'm trying to get my son a title shot, or I'm trying to get him in a heavyweight conversation.
Right.
Sly Stallone comes in because now what was it that made Sly change his mind, Spider? I gotta ask you that question because he clearly meant no, and no means no, no matter what language it is no. Remember that. If she tell you no, it's no. What changed his mind?
I think that was from when he had the conversation, you know, because he would go visit Adrian and Pete's grave, and he would just sit there and he would just talk to him, keep him up to date on what's going on. And he was talking, you know, he was saying that he hadn't heard from Bobby in a while, and you know, just trying to figure out what his role is in Bobby's life. His son, which we, you know, play by Milo Ventimiglia, that we saw in Balboa. And just kind of, you know, even Donnie asked him about his son. He was like, oh, well, he's in Vancouver with his girlfriend. You know, they're living their own life and everything. Obviously far removed from Rocky. Because, of course, he said, you know, did Bobby want to, you know, take up boxing? And he was like, no, he never really got into the fighting. And it's just such a distinct difference from Rocky, who tried to get his son into fighting and Bobby didn't like it, and Creed, who's not here to raise Donnie, who probably would have kept him away from the ring, and Donnie probably would have just still behind his father's back against his wishes, still probably wanted to fight, you know, and it's just that contrast. But I think that him, you know, and it's great to see Rocky in these scenes where he's talking to Adrian and he's just basically getting his thoughts out, right? And it's the solace and the comfort because, especially when it came to his cancer diagnosis and how he was saying when a nurse told him, you know, you have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you know, but we caught it early, we could get you started on chemo. And he was like, nah, I'm not worried about it. My wife already tried that. It's like, you don't understand. She already tried that and it didn't work. So I saw how much it hurt her, how the pain and the anguish that she had to go through, and to go through all of that, and then it didn't work after all of that. It's like, no. And you're like, well, if you, it, you know, it is like basically saying, you know, if you don't do this, you could die. He was like, I'm okay with that. But so those conversations that he had with Adrian, allowing him to get those thoughts out, he's like, you know, Apollo's son came to visit me today. He's thinking about it. And like I said, he was thinking about what Apollo meant to him and how the guilt that he feels inside because he feels partly responsible, or he may feel solely responsible for Apollo's death. Because again, like I say, had he thrown in the towel, Drago wouldn't have killed him. You know, he would have called a fight, but of course, as we find out in, at the end of Creed, Rocky has the opportunity to throw in the towel. Donnie tells him not to, and you see him kind of battling with that. It's like, am I going to be responsible for another Creed dying? Right.
Oh my God.
The
weight of that decision.
And I think that he knows that Donnie is hot-headed. He sees the way that he's approached him. He said, obviously, with the first time he meets Donnie, he's like, I can tell that you're very smart. And so I can tell that you don't need to do this. So why don't you go try doing something else instead of, of this? Anything else.
Anything else.
So he knows he's smart, but he knows he's not trained. And he's going to be trying to go up against people who are trained. And I think that Rocky felt some sort of responsibility to him, especially since he went in and started calling him Unc. He was like, "Did you just call me Unc?" He was like, "Yeah, he's out of OG." And he was like, "Well, what does OG mean?" He's like, "Old ass gangster." He's like, "Yeah, I prefer Unc. Just stick with Unc."
There you go.
But and he's like,
"Yeah, how much of that do you think was unscripted?" Michael B. Jordan liked to throw those out there.
I feel like there was a good bit of it. I feel like when they were doing the training montage, and we'll talk about the training montage in a little bit. When they were doing the training montage, they were doing the speed bag, right? And it was Rocky it was Rocky and Donnie going at it with the speed bag.
Yeah.
Rocky kind of fumbled a little bit, and then he kind of pushed Creed and hit his bag, and they were like, "No, you're cheating." Like that moment, that looked like that was just an actual moment where they were on set. And they were just going at it with the speed bag. Like Michael B. Jordan was probably doing it, and Rocky came up next to him, and they started doing it. And they were Ryan Coogler directing it. Probably just told him, "Hey, get that on camera. Just catch that. Capture this moment." And they were just having fun with it. But it was you see Rocky's walls dropping, you see Donnie's walls dropping, and you see both of these people who have lived a majority of their life alone. Well, I can't say Donnie lived the majority of his life alone because Marianne, came and pulled him in pretty early in his life, but where Donnie may have felt alone, because even though he calls Marianne mom, that's not his mom.
Right.
So, but he's looking at it from this perspective of, I never knew my dad. I just know of my dad's legacy. And I want to be able to show that I can be just as good as him, if not better. And Rocky's been in the house by himself. Paulie, and I said Pete earlier, Paulie died. Adrian died, so he's literally in a house by himself. He's running a restaurant. He's doing fine. He's just going about his business, but he's still by himself. And
is that Italian food that they're serving?
I have no idea.
I bet you it's Italian.
Probably. He is the Italian stallion.
Hey.
But pizza. I think he just felt some sort of responsibility to him, and that's why he wanted to train him. But and I don't want to get into the entire plot because, again, we got to talk about two movies. But one of the things that I appreciated about Creed was the heart that was put into the dialogue. And comparing
the chemistry between Stallone and Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. And comparing the two movies, I feel like if you put the two movies together, it was one complete movie, because I feel like in Creed, the first Creed movie, I feel like it was very heartfelt, because not only did we get, Donnie kind of trying to come into his own, trying to make it on his own, not use his father's name. And we get that internal struggle that he has within himself of accepting who he is. He's a Creed. And we get, all of these different scenes where he's watching his father fight. He's shadowboxing to his father, all of this other kind of stuff. And we get Rocky training him, and we see him developing, we see him coming better. And what I appreciate is he has raw talent, but he doesn't know the basics, right? We get into the gym because, like we said, Pete was mad because when Rocky was training Donnie, he wasn't training Leo. So Pete was like, well, why don't you training your kid? Why don't you have him fight my son? He could use, like, basically saying Leo could use the warm up match. Basically saying that Leo will knock your ass out. But
basically,
so when they agreed to the fight, because of course Donnie has to convince Rocky to let him fight, because Rocky's like, you're not ready, and this dude has been probably training all his life. He gonna wipe the floor with you. You are not ready. So Donnie convinces him, and so they go to another gym, because Rocky's like, I don't want you training in the same gym as your opponent, because it's just not, that's not smart, right? So they get into the other gym, and he introduces him to Stitch. He introduces him to Padman, and Padman's son is another fighter who's been training. Again, like you said, these kids they're doing this because this is their way out. They have to fight. This is their bread and butter. This is how they eat. And so they get to sparring, and Padman's son, Amir, is basically like whooping up on Donnie, and Donnie's getting hot-headed about it because he's getting beat. He thinks that he's better than this, but he's clearly not. And he has to, and Rocky has to break it down to him. Yeah, fights in Mexico is nothing. It's like, yeah, you from the streets and you can fight other street fighters, but when it comes to classical boxing, like, you don't have it. And so watching him like trying to mirror Amir and just like hit the pads, and like Padman's like, you're not quick enough. You gotta like snap. Like going into it, all of the things that he had to develop, like the basics that he had to learn, and just watching him struggle, and like him jumping rope, and like I think that was like one of the first things that they did in that montage where he was training. He was jumping rope, and then the bell, the little chime goes off. And then he stops and he's trying to catch his breath because he's exhausted. We saw that he was trying to jump rope. He couldn't even get the rope going at the beginning. And Rocky
me when I jump rope.
And so Rocky tells him, he said, that bell doesn't mean that school is out. Keep going. And it's like, that's what you have to do, because even though that the bell rings,
that endurance,
and maybe that's the end of the round, but the fight's still going. So you can't just say as soon as they hit that bell that you can rest. Because you got 30 seconds, and then you got to get back up. You got to get back out there again. Crazy. So having these scenes, watching Donnie get built up like that, I felt like that training montage in the first Creed, I feel like those were more impactful than the ones in Creed 2. Even though the ones in Creed 2 still have their, they had their moment, they had their reasoning behind it, I just felt like there was more, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. There was more to it. I guess the stakes were there. And not that, because I'm contradicting myself, because not that the stakes weren't there in Creed 2, but I felt it more in Creed 1.
Well, you're coming to the exact thing that I knew we were going to get into talking about this. When these movies came out, even though they came out with some time between the two, it's no secret that Ryan Coogler directed the first one, did not direct the second one, and there was a lot of differences in the first one versus the second one. Now, normally what is said was the second one sucked, but after doing the rewatch, I won't say the second one sucked, because I don't think it's true. What we have is, like you said, a continuation, but a different type of tone. Shout out to Ryan Coogler. What you would love was these long takes that Ryan now is known for.
One shots. Yeah, those one shots,
those continuous takes. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch Creed 1. You can see that Donnie went from backstage to in the ring, and it looked like one long continuous shot. Then you had other things that didn't exist in the second one, but you had different things that existed.
They had a few.
Did they?
Yeah, because the very first thing that we see when Creed 2 starts is that Donnie's fighting Stuntman. He's fighting
Stuntman.
He's fighting Stuntman, trying to get his Mustang back.
Mustang in the first one.
Got his ass knocked out. But so they're following, and so I mean, he did. Did you see his big face was like this on the mat?
He did. Yeah, that's true.
But so it was to the point to where it was almost like, you know how when you're playing video games and you have like walking missions, right? And you basically, the camera's following
What
you
game
while
is
you,
this?
I'm just saying, any video game where you have a walking mission, Assassin's Creed,
Okay.
Last of Us, you're
Yeah.
walking through, you're walking through an area, whether it's yourself or whether it's, you're walking with, most of the time you're walking with another person, and the camera's following you. It's a third person camera over the shoulder. It's following
Yeah.
you,
God of
and the
War. I got you.
and the two characters are having a conversation. And so at the
Right.
beginning of Creed 2, that's what we got. We got Rocky walking with Donnie through the hallways, backstage, no music, just hear the soft roar of the crowd. And so Rocky has his hand on Donnie's shoulder, and they're just walking through, and he just every now and then he like just gives him another, little bit of advice. So they still had those one shots. It wasn't as
Yeah.
many as Ryan Coogler did in the first one, but I think that the director Stephen Caple, he was still trying to pay homage to what Coogler had the precedents that he had set forth, and is trying to still keep with that. Now, I would say that one thing that Coogler did in the first one, he had a lot more one shots in the ring. Like there was an entire round dedicated to basically you just, and it was so beautifully shot because it was always like, they're fighting, right? So we had Don and we had Pretty Ricky in the first Creed. And so what you would do, you would get them, they're fighting, they're throwing punches, and then one of them kind of like, Donnie will get backed up into the ropes, right? So Ricky will fall out of the frame, and then so they'll focus on Donnie, and then you see Ricky come back in. And then the camera kind of does a turnaround, and now we're fighting from Donnie's perspective, and we see him, Ricky gets pushed back, and then Donnie comes back in. And it's like, I just...
A dance.
Yes, pretty much. It was so well choreographed, and I feel like all of the fights were pretty well choreographed. How they actually like for the slow-mo shots when they were like actually getting hit in the face, like those, however they did that, I'm not even about to try to hypothesize or theorize how they do it.
So he got hit in the face sometimes. Sylvester Stallone said he got hit in the face sometimes. So
sometimes you got to. You can only so you can only fake it so much. Sometimes you got to make the hits. The hits have to be real. But but no, the cinematography of it, the way that they frame their shots, it was definitely, to me, it was better in the first one. Not to say that the second one was bad. That's what I want to say, because like you said, a lot of people are like, oh, Creed 2 sucked. And watching them back to back, you can see it's not that the second one was worse than the first one. It was just shot differently. The story was at a different pace. It still had heart. It still had emotion.
It's supposed to progress. What I noticed that they had in the first one, there were a lot of lingering shots. There were a lot of establishing world building type of shots, like laying on the floor, them listening to music, like, there was a lot more looking in each other's eyes. Or
they brought that shot back in Creed 2.
Yeah, I saw that. I was watching the same movie you did. So to see those shots, it gave you such a different type of vibe. It was more like a boy meets girl, perfect woman, girl get the bus into the cops, come running, that type of feeling. And then in the second one, you didn't get that, but you got other establishing shots because you got him with the baby, you got him with the situation of family and the struggle that was going on with him and Sly Stallone. Because I noticed when Donnie didn't get his way, he still fell back to the old Donnie. And I might be jumping from Creed 1 to Creed 2, but at least I'm not multiversal jumping this time. Because when he's not getting his way, he'll throw some hateful stuff up out there. When he told Sly Stallone, at least you ain't got to worry about throwing in the towel this time, I was hurt. I was like, man, this man struggle with that daily. And for you to throw that up in his face like that, that's just, wow. Is this what we doing now? And even worse so, after he got the brakes beat off him because he wouldn't listen, again, man came to see you. Wow, you just gonna do him like that because you wouldn't listen? You gonna do him like that? Okay. But we had to have these touch point. So if not, we
But
wouldn't
I
have a
mean, the thing
story
about
like
it is
this.
like you think about it and you see in Creed, Rocky did the same thing. When Rocky
What do
found
you
out that
mean?
he had cancer, and he had the pamphlets for
Yeah,
the treatment and
yeah, they
everything.
cut from the same cloth.
Right. And that's where we get the clash because, and I think that Rocky understands that. But the thing about it is, what Rocky did is Rocky apologized. He was like, I shouldn't have said what I said. Donnie's never apologized for what he said.
Yeah,
The only thing he did after he healed up and Rocky showed up to Marianne's house because, he was probably, dealing with depression and all this other kind of stuff by getting beat so bad and everything. And Rocky showed up at the house, they had a little conversation and they kind of joked a little bit and that was it. Beef squash. Donnie never said, I'm
yeah,
sorry. Donnie never I didn't mean it. I was upset. But he never even told Rocky you were right. He
yeah.
never even
Asshole
owned up
tendencies.
to that.
That's all
And
it
so
is. Asshole
that was
tendencies.
probably my biggest issue with Creed 2 is like after, and this had to be years after Creed 1 because normally when heavyweight boxing matches are planned, they're never planned like you don't get into a fight and then finish a fight and then like 2 weeks later you're back into a fight. You have
Nah,
months
man,
in
that's some
between.
UFC shit right there. You do something.
But even with
That's
UFC,
MMA.
you still have months in between,
Yeah,
to allow
now.
you to recover, allow yourself to train, and then get into the fight. And of course, they got to promote the fight and all this other
Mm,
kind of stuff. But so for Donnie to, first of all, he lost to Ricky.
he
Even though it
lost
was
bad.
it was a great fight. Nobody was expecting him to go the whole 12 rounds, but he lost. Couldn't see out of one eye, but
Ooh, the special effects when they put that little compression on that eye and that thing with the moving like this, I was like, oh my god, they did
yeah,
that. That looked
but
real.
so
With the hands.
he would have absolutely had to work his way up, back to being able to fight Stuntman because Stuntman was the champ. And they say that
Yeah, they said that.
they
They
say he
said he
fought him
had
3 years too
fights.
late.
Yeah, they said he had 6 fights after that he
Yeah.
won because that's the only way he would have got to that level to even fight him.
Right. So you would think that in that time where Rocky's still training them, they're going through this whole thing because Rocky's overcoming cancer and it seems like he beat it. But you would think that he would learn a little bit more maturity to where not to fly off the handle like that. And it's not that he can't be angry because I understand Ivan Drago killed his father. So
You killed my father.
he has the opportunity to get back at Drago's son. And you would think that having gone through what he went through, Rocky trying to tell him, listen, you can't just basically go after everybody just because they pose a challenge to you. He tried to tell him that with Leo. He got lucky and he won. The reason he won because he followed Rocky's advice. The reason he made it so far against Pretty Ricky because he followed Rocky's advice. And then we get into Creed 2. He goes to Rocky, he's like, hey, I want to take this fight. And Rocky's like, you don't need to take this fight. And Donnie just like, oh, because you think I'm going to lose. All right, cool. I'm going to do it without you. And it's like, have you not learned anything from all the time that you've been with Rocky? And
No.
that's the only thing that rubs me the wrong way about Creed 2 is because I feel like, because like we said, we've established that Donnie is smart. Donnie is a smart dude. And for him to just completely let his emotions wash over him and just ignore all common sense. And it's like, do this on your own terms. Don't just do this because they come knocking at your door and posing a threat to you, or posing a challenge to you,
But the question, Spider, is how much of Adonis are we seeing in Creed 3? Because we've already broke down the trailer. You got someone coming from the past that he helps, but it gets to a point that he starts to glow up. And then he says he's coming for you, Donnie. I'm coming for everything. And instead of him saying, I'm good, you can have it, because correct me if I'm wrong, I think Adonis is retired in Creed 3. And he comes out of retirement to try to prove this point. what do you have to prove? You already got your record. You already got your gym. It cleared that you're good financially. You got a Rolls Royce that I forget Jonathan Major's character is playing, but that's your car.
Damien.
So why, Damien? So why are you? What do you have to prove? You have nothing to prove. So we're still seeing the same character traits in Donnie that we've seen consistently through 1 and 2 Creed.
Right. But here's the thing. I don't know if it's exactly the same because it does seem like it's different. And this is only from what we're getting from the trailer. It seems like it's different in a way because we see that there's that scene in the trailer, and we all know that trailers, they plan shots, they plot shots, they manipulate us to make us think that something has happened that's not really happening. But we get Damien is out with his crew. He's obviously the champion now. He goes from, there's just basically the kind of ragged clothes that he had after he got out of jail. He got gold around his neck now. He's rolling with a whole entourage, and they go up to this mountain or whatever. And Donnie's in his suit, and he's like, is that a threat? Are you threatening me? And obviously they get into some type of argument, some type of altercation, but I don't think that at this point, I don't think Donnie was the one that instigated. I think that, because we even get the scene in the trailer where Bianca is telling them, you don't owe him anything anymore. And it's like, and Donnie really seemed like he was reluctant to get into a fight with Damien. He was like, I don't want to fight him, but I feel like I have to. And Bianca's like, well, then fight. If you have to fight, then you have to fight. You're going to have to fight. And that's what brings him back to fighting Damien. And so I think that we will see a more mature Donnie, somebody who has, like you said, because he's retired, he's not one to just jump off at the handle and get into a fight. Because we saw in the first Creed where Bianca was opening a show. Well, she was doing a bigger venue, and
she was opening act for a rapper,
right? And he comes
Philly
like,
rapper,
Baby Creed, calling Baby Creed, and like, hey, yo, don't call me that. And it's like, that could have been said in a different way. He was like, look, man, you ain't got to call me a baby. He was like, I'm just trying to, do my own thing. Dude was a little bit disrespectful. I'm not going to lie.
Dude was disrespectful. Dude was like, implying that he ain't got it on with Bianca or something. And, like, you come through, you already know you good. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. You see that man here with this girl. And
you better get your pretty boy boyfriend.
First of all, thank you. Clearly you noticed. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be able to...
You're like, I work hard on it.
Yeah, I exfoliate, pretty boy. I was thinking about calling myself Pretty Boy Donnie. So you gotta know how to handle guys like that.
They already had Pretty Ricky, so I couldn't call myself pretty.
Well, a name is a name until, Mr. VIP comes in with his long ass name, and then God damn, that boy name long. The point of what I'm saying is you got to be able to handle guys like that, because again, when you're the champ or when you're known for fighting, slapping gloves, throwing them hands, releasing them paws, people are going to want to try you. They're going to want to check you. I mean, real life situations, look what happened with Mike Tyson when he went out to a club, guy talk crazy because he wants Mike to hit him so he could sue him. So you really got to be on your humble nonsense to know that if you want these hands, you can catch them. And you always got to say, I'm going to make sure you get every penny's worth, because I know you're going to try to sue me.
I mean, they did it to Tyson as recent as, last year, a couple years ago, when he was on the plane.
When he had
dude kept antagonizing him on the plane. And it's like, stupid. It's like, why would you put yourself in this situation? It's like, you have no sense of self-preservation if you antagonize Mike Tyson.
Let me tell you something. Mike Tyson still is a beast.
The baddest man on the planet. Always was, always will be.
This dude, Mike Tyson's still one of my favorite boxers. His inside game is lethal. It's lethal. Mm-hmm. Now, he might, on the stretch, you might could take a punch or two, but if he get on the inside, it's over. The little short, oh my God, you about to rock all your DNA loose. You're gonna be out there just, oh my God, crazy. And listen, they gonna try you. So it's interesting to see if it's going to play a part into Creed 3 because again, I'm thinking we're getting the same Donnie in the sense like you saying you're smarter than this. You haven't learned anything. Now, given it, go watch the movie. That's all I can really tell y'all. But he's coming off the fact that he had just found out that Sly Stallone, Rocky had got cancer. So his mindset really wasn't in the right place. Again, great writing, great chemistry between Sylvester Stallone and Michael B. Jordan. I do appreciate the camaraderie in Creed 1 and Creed 2. Creed 2, coming off of Rocky 4, one of the biggest Rocky movies
My
of
favorite
all
Rocky
time.
movie.
Probably because they put country against countries, right? Anytime you go an epic like that, there's a Russian thing versus American thing. I love how they took the part and say, listen, that night changed everything for me. Because I lost, I was basically shunned by my country.
Right.
My
Because they weren't even living in Russia anymore. They were living in Ukraine.
Exactly. He had to move into a whole nother country. That's crazy, right? So I can understand the disdain that they had for Sylvester Stallone's Rocky, right? And you take the kid, Drogo's kid, and they said he was raised in hate. Like his mom left, his country shunned him. They had to move, and the things are hard for him. There's this again. This is coming from I need this more than you,
right?
And then he's coming with the "you killed my father." You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like Star Wars in a sense, like that father revolution. So you had two great elements to clash against.
But like Rocky told Donnie, he said, this guy has nothing to lose. And when you have a guy who has nothing to lose, you can't go up against that. I'm dangerous.
Yeah, but no. You got a mansion. You can go right there home to your mama, take you right in. She'll cook something for you. I have one of them servants cook something for you. And that's not to say that you don't have it in your heart. I mean, you had to give them something to fight passionately that hard about. And the fact that I can get retribution that you killed my father and I can do, and he said it, I'm trying to do something that they couldn't do.
Right.
I'm trying to beat the guy he couldn't beat. Rocky beat him. And again, like you said, once you listen to Rocky, you can win too.
Right.
Until that time comes, you gotta let that ego go.
But then the thing about it is, it's uncertain, right? Because the thing about it is, yeah, Victor hadn't been used to going the distance, right? He's a big dude. He's a strong dude. He's fast.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a weight class with this, right? Because there's no way in the world.
Because they definitely could.
I'm looking at this thing
not
like
in the same weight class.
Not in the same weight.
They are not in the same weight class. But you have they even announced to say that Victor has never had a fight go past round 4, and here they are in round 10, 11, 12, and that's when Donnie started getting kind of the upper hand. But the thing about it is, would Donnie have won had Victor's mom stuck around? Because after he got knocked down, because we saw that Victor's mom, Brigitte Nielsen, played Drago's wife in Rocky 4. She came back, now she's like the chancellor, the magistrate, whatever. Yeah. Whatever his role, whatever this guy is, whatever his position is, she's his wife now. And so we see that they showed up to the fight, and when Victor got knocked down, I think he got knocked down for the second time. And they were like, "Oh well, he about to lose, so we gonna bounce. We just gonna leave." And so Victor,
bring the car around,
right? And so Victor's getting up, and he sees that they're gone, and it's like all of his fight just left him.
Yeah,
it was like his fight left him. Ivan Drago, his fight, his energy, like he was like wanting his son, like, get up, you gotta fight, you know, all this other kind of stuff, like all of that energy left, and it was just like nothing. Now
fight was gone.
And so like, had she not left, would Victor have kept fighting? Could Victor have won? Because Donnie was fighting on fumes. He didn't crack his ribs again, and Donnie was fighting
Yeah,
on fumes.
yeah. Which is interesting because in Rocky 1, Rocky was known for cracking those cow ribs.
Right.
Now we get that homage because Donnie got his ribs cracked and he ain't even a
Twice.
cow. That's crazy. Listen, this is the underlying story. And the second movie plays so much into the mental aspect, right? There was a lot of mental because if you're not here, they're showing you're already defeated. You need to be right here first before you even step foot into the ring. If you think you're gonna lose, you already lost. You really have, and this is why they call boxers champ before they even got a belt. You got to get associated with that fact that you're a champion already. You need to understand you got to move like a champion. And I love the mirroring that a lot of them did in the first and second one when Donnie was moving. You seen Sly right there with the same old bop. Not full, but a couple of times it was like, because it's a dance, it's muscle memory. It's about having it here before you even step foot in the ring because if you don't have everything aligned, one distraction, that's all it takes. You're on the canvas, you lay it out, and heaven forbid you froze up because that's even worse. So you got to be right here. When she left, this was obliterated because he was already shown in the scene earlier. Like, Dad, why are we here? You know what I'm saying? And he was like, all these people are here for you. They're here for us. Don't get me wrong. You can see that he wanted some of his old life back because he's taking pictures. He's drinking champagne because this is what he was used to. He was the guy. He had Russia on his back. He had the prestige. Not saying that he necessarily wanted it now, but it wasn't like he was shunning it away as well.
Right.
So when she left, yeah, he felt it, but at the same time, what I did love about it, he felt more for his son. He didn't let the fight keep going, and that the fight would have kept going. I honestly think Donnie probably would have killed him. Definitely tried to kill him because, again, he killed my father.
True, but I didn't get the sense that that's what Donnie. I didn't get the sense that Donnie was the way that Donnie was hitting him was for retaliation for that. I just felt like that Donnie was just trying to win. He was just trying to overcome an opponent who was clearly stronger than him. And like I was saying about Ricky, how I don't want to call him a villain because he has his own reasoning behind getting into the fight. Oh, and another thing that I wanted to kind of touch base on now that we've kind of moved away from Creed 1. Pretty Ricky's manager. Pretty Ricky's manager. Did you recognize him?
Pretty Ricky. It depends. Does he owe me money?
No, he does not owe you money.
I don't know who he is, then.
So pretty Ricky Conlon, his manager, the one that called Rocky and said, hey, we want to get your guy in a fight. He was the head of the King's Guard in House of the Dragon.
Okay.
So just a little, little tidbits.
Little something for y'all.
Also, the actor that plays Victor Drago, recognize him?
Yeah, from Creed, too.
Do you remember what else he played in?
That's something IDB has to answer. I can't answer those type of questions.
He also played Razor Fist in Shang-Chi.
Razor Fist?
The suit dude with the sword on his hand.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I remember he had the amputee with the sword.
He had the Jeep that said Razor Fist on the side.
Yeah, man. I thought that was interesting. I knew him from somewhere. Just couldn't think of that.
But it's just so funny how, and again, we always bring it back to the MCU, how you have all of these characters in Creed 2 who played in the MCU. Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie, Michael B. Jordan, Killmonger. This
is also true.
You have Sylvester Stallone, who was in Guardians 2 as a car.
Uh-huh. And you got Ryan Coogler, who's the director of Black Panther.
Right.
MCU just snatching up people. You might wake up in the MCU Spider.
Look, I wouldn't be mad at it. You might be like,
Spider-Man, do a flip.
Wouldn't be mad at it. I wouldn't be mad. That dude has been in 2 movies at this point, too. He was in Spider-Man and he was in Shang-Chi. Commercials. Yeah, he was what? He was in an Uber Eats commercial.
And he had a speaking line. So there you go. Yep. Just go to show you being an extra can take you places.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be mad at it.
Some extra on that check.
But I'm like I was saying about Pretty Ricky about not calling him a villain, calling him an antagonist, and that is even more true for Creed 2 because we open up the movie on Ivan Drago waking up his son. It's early in the morning. It's like, hey, we gotta go
punching him in the chest. God damn, that is a long clock. That's horrible.
Like you said, this is a child that was raised in hate, and you can tell that Ivan probably, raised him. I'm not gonna say that he made him feel like, because it was definitely, not Ivan's, not Victor's fault.
He loved his son.
Yeah, he loved his son, but he wanted.
He threw at the end because
he wanted his son to be able to eventually restore the honor to the family name. And so he's putting him through all of this.
Yeah.
And not to say that Victor didn't want to fight, but you can see that his heart wasn't in it as much as his father's was. Because when they were at the weigh-in and he and Donnie are squaring up and Ivan is like, you're a lot smaller than your father was. And when he said that, Victor kind of looked at him. He's like, bro, what the fuck? Like, why? It's like, is that necessary?
This what you doing? Is this what you doing?
Right. And it's like, you antagonizing this man. He's like, I'm just here to fight because you said that we want to get our family name back. We want to get the respect back. So I'm here. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to beat this dude's ass so we can get our favor back at home. And you trying to start up shit. It's like, that's not what I'm here for. And we saw when they're doing the training montages where Ivan, he got the pads on, he's doing the pads and everything. And like Victor started like going in. He started hitting him and pushing him. He's like, I'm mad at you. Like, you got me doing this shit. And it's just like,
do you think there was more story to tell with that side that we just did not get to see?
I think there was. And the reason that I'm saying that is because there is a rumored Drago spinoff that might be in the works. So there's definitely more story to that. But
this
I don't know.
How you got legacy when you can do 2 spinoffs.
I don't know if it's going to be like a prequel to Creed or a prequel to Creed 2, like what happened before Creed fought Drago, or if it's going to be like the aftermath, like since he lost, like what's going to happen with him after that.
I would rather see the aftermath, quite honestly, and just give me one of those if he dies lines. That's it. Just give me that. Because again, the dynamic of the story was good enough that I'm somewhat invested in it. Because again, you shunned in your country not once now, but twice because he didn't win. And that's even what his son is like, I didn't win. Like almost to a point that he accepted that they shunned him because I didn't win. The country was, I let them down. Like I deserve this, but you not gonna lose. And then he lost. So now what happens? Clearly they're back together because they showed him at the end. It's.
I like the line where
if he died,
Drago. No, not that one. That was from Rocky IV. We talking about Creed 2. We're talking about Creed 2. When Drago was, he was still after he beat Creed the first time, and Donnie was, basically rehabbing, healing up. And
Drago he illegally got disqualified. He got disqualified the first time because they even asked him in the interview.
That's what I'm saying. We like, how do you feel after your loss to Creed? And Drago's like, what loss? He's like, I'm sorry, after you were disqualified. Because he didn't technically, he didn't win the belt, but technically he didn't lose because he beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, well, you illegally punched a man while he was on one knee. That's a disqualification in any goddamn sport. So come
I
on,
agree,
man.
but I'm just saying I like that line. What loss? But it just showed you because it's not that Drago went around and he was arrogant, he was cocky, he wasn't loudmouth. He was very contrasting to the Creed name because even we know back in Rocky 4, Apollo Creed, he was flashy, he was flamboyant. He brought James Brown out, when he was fighting Drago, living in America. He was a showman. He was a showman. But Drago was different. Drago's quiet. Drago is very cold, very calculated. And so it's just going off. But so you see the contrast between the two because even when Donnie's fighting, we've seen in all his fights, Donnie still talks shit when he fights.
Yeah, he do. Yeah, he do. I like it.
Even he gets his ass beat, he still try to talk shit.
He's the Rock in the ring.
I wouldn't go that far.
Like, oh, well, the Rock talks shit too.
The Rock talks shit, but the Rock is clever with the shit that he talks.
And he talks shit after, even if he lost. So I gotta respect it.
But last thing I want to talk about Creed 2 is that this seemed like, and I didn't realize this because, of course, we only get the aftermath of everything about what's going on behind the scenes after the movie comes out. And so we know now that Sylvester Stallone is not going to be, Rocky's not going to be in Creed 3. He's not directing it. He didn't write it. And so when we finish Creed and we know that Rocky has cancer, Rocky's trying to fight cancer. We get the montage of the whole, if I'm going to fight, you're going to fight, and right. So having that, beat for beat, Donnie's training there, and oh my God, it was so good. Hospital. He's at the hospital. Yeah. Rocky's like, have you been to the gym? And Donnie's like, nah, I've been here. He was like, all right, well, get up. And Donnie's like, what you talking about? He's like, get up. This is what I want you to do. Start doing push-ups. Start running up the stairs. You got to get in shape.
Rocky is known for the training montages. It is the most known for training montages. The things that Sylvester Stallone has done in the gym, outside of the gym, which again, they did that in the gym the first time, and then outside of the gym, even in Creed, when they went to the desert, it's a different type of training. You got equipment versus nature and environment. You got, even when Drago was on steroids.
And I think that's kind of why I didn't really, that montage, I felt like the first montage when he was getting ready to fight Drago the first time, I felt like that one hit a little bit harder for me than the one when he was in the desert. Like he was in a pool, like underwater throwing punches. Like, how hard it is to throw a powerful punch underwater. But I think that because we saw Rocky kind of do the same thing in Rocky 4 when he was about to fight Drago. Drago was in a gym. He had all of the equipment. He had all the technology. Rocky went back to basics. He was up in the mountains. He was chopping down trees. He was pulling saws. He was pulling the sails.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like
the ab strength.
Right. And it's like, that was iconic, right?
Iconic.
And then we get the same thing here, but it's just like, instead of being in the cold mountains, now we're in a desert in the heat. And so I understand the purpose behind it, but I was like, I feel like this was done before. I don't know, and I'm not a screenwriter. I can't say that I could have done it better. I don't know what they could have done differently to make a different montage, but I felt like it was too much of a parallel with, Rocky going against Drago, and now you have Creed going against Drago, and it was still like the technology being in the gym versus being in nature. So I think that
I took it as montage.
You took what?
I took it as fan homage, but slightly different because, like you said, it's in the desert.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to sling a sledgehammer into the sand in the desert? And then he got to a point that he was like, screw it. He took a bandana, went around his face, and even Sly and the young coach that's backing up, like, keep going, kicking up sand, keep going. It's hot. You want a beer? I'm gonna get a beer. And they was out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to think of training montages to do that you've ever seen before. Think about The Incredibles. You got a superhero running with a train. Think about
not just running with a train. He was doing fucking pulls with the. He was just pulling up the train.
Yeah, think about Love and Thunder. He was slinging chains and what else he did? You know, iconic. So he was the Venator was he was dragging the Venator. You know, it's when you go into these training montages, it is hard to think of things that you haven't seen done before. And Donnie's not a superhero, so it has to be something practical, realistic wise.
Now,
I mean,
the tire, the close quarters fighting, putting your foot in the tire and like basically, you know, that was something different.
Yeah, because he preferences saying this: if you're going to win this fight, you're going to have to get inside, which is for any fighter one of the most dangerous places to think about. Fighting Tyson on the inside. Oh my God, my kidney hurt just from thinking about it. Now, I'm not saying
his kidneys got ruptured the first time. Will
Smith did a song say I fought Mike Tyson. In the song that Will Smith wrote, he lost the fight. That's how, it's a real song. Will Smith said he got hit by Tyson and his balls released. So you ain't about to just win on the inside against anybody that's a real trained fighter. That's just one of the most dangerous spots. It's just short, powerful impact hits. But the way that they framed it, to put your foot in the tire, and you seen Donnie when you watched him the first time, he didn't just master it.
No.
He got hurt. He had to step out. Oh my God, this dude's real. Until the tide turned, and then he was able to do more damage. And then again, signs and indications that you're ready. And in the fight, they commented on it. He's handling these punches way better than what he did in the first fight.
Yeah, because that first fight, Victor threw a punch, he blocked it, still knocked him back halfway across the ring. And you saw that look on his face. He was like, oh shit. I did not realize that this dude was as strong as he is.
Yeah, there's no way there was a weight class requirement in that. It's just no
way. They really framed it as, oh, we see this as a way to make money, so we just gonna let this fight go ahead and go through. But
yeah, man, that's backyard brawls right there.
One of the things that and again, hopefully being able to dive more into the Drago storyline. Ivan Drago in Rocky IV was painted as this big, dumb brute. He was basically a machine for the Soviet Union. He was basically just their weapon, right? And that was all he was good for. He was good to fight, and that was it. And we get a sense of how smart Drago is in this movie, because one key thing that happened with the fight, Rocky told him, he was like, he's going to overextend his right. And when he does that, you slip it and you hit him with the left. And so Rocky tells Donnie this. Donnie's like, all right, he's going to overextend, slip it, hit him with the left. That happens. And it works. And immediately when that works, Ivan's in Victor's corner. He's like, bait him with the right, because he knows. Because Rocky told him, he said his dad did that with me in my fight. Right. So he's like, obviously, and so Rocky's watching this and he overextending the right. He's overextending the right. So he's like, oh, he trained him up to fight the same way that he fought. So we get that, and we see Ivan's like, bait him with the right. And so he baited him and rocked the shit out of him. And then you see Rocky's face, and he looks at Drago, and Drago is like, I knew exactly what you was thinking.
I knew how to fight too.
and it's so funny because Dolph Lundgren, as big as he is, as menacing as this man looks, is fucking smart as hell. He's an MIT graduate. Dude is IQ's off the charts. Very intelligent man. Very intelligent. I think he was like a biochemist major or something, like some science or something. Super smart.
I thought it was interesting when he was about to cut Jet Li in the Expendables.
Right.
Just goes to show you, Sylvester Stallone is friends with this man. He put him in the movie 2 times, 3 times.
I think it was. Did he come back for 3? Because I know they kind of like, because he was like doing drugs and stuff, so they were kind of like, you know, oh, you can't roll with us because you kind of like on that shit.
Well, hey, that's a missed opportunity right there.
Also, there's going to be another Expendables coming out too.
When is this happening? Because I need more Expendables.
That I don't know. I think sometime before the fall. I think it's slated to come out. But in any regards, we get to see that there's actually, you know, there's thought behind Drago, and there's thought, you know, he actually has thought about this. He's not just, you know, he's not just like a meathead. He's not just, he knows how to punch things. No. He's actually smart. And like you said, you have to be smart here before you step in the ring, or else you've already lost. And so
that's why I feel it's just where the son defeated, because he's a smart fighter.
Yeah,
they might hate the fact that he throw that shoulder out there, but guess what? He throw that shoulder out there,
and he don't get hurt.
You go hit that shoulder all day. He might throw a little shimmy on that shoulder, right? You know? But at the same time, as soon as you finish hitting that shoulder, you tired. Woo, 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 woo. Three Stooges.
But in any regard, so Creed 1, Creed 2, Mr. VIP Frankie Washington. 2 great movies. Sir. Are they super?
They are super. No hesitation when I say it. Listen, if you don't believe me, go back and watch it. If you don't think it's super, clearly, like the video and audio on this video, you're watching it wrong. Go back and look at it.
I don't think they're watching it wrong. I think it's coming across wrong.
I think you're looking at it wrong, because if you saw this and I didn't do this, that's what it is. Sir, Spider, Creed 1, Creed 2, as a whole, let's go ahead and put them together. Is it super or is it not super? You can be honest, man.
See, you're talking about putting them together. Putting them together.
You have more issues than I had.
Yeah, and it's not even issues. It's not even issues. Like I said, they're 2 great movies, well written. Like you said, Ryan Coogler directed the first one. Yeah, Stephen Cable directed the second one. Now we get Michael B. Jordan directing the third one. So it's not that Creed 2 was a bad movie. It was just different than the first one. I feel like I just think that going into it, I felt the emotions more in first Creed. The montages were a little bit more meaningful to me in the first Creed. Not to say, I just felt like that there was more.
You know what it was? They got to the main event fight faster than what they did in Creed. There was a build up in Creed 1. There was a build up.
That might have been what it was.
But there was more story to tell after that. So we got to the main fight, and you felt like, man, we got here fast. But they got to that story beat, and then it's almost like, okay, now we're rematching instead of that build up, that like crescendo to it. Right. It's more like, we're here, we prematurely got here. Why did you do this, Donnie? Like, we were rooting for you and you lost. Now you got to deal with that loss and the depression. And you seen Donnie didn't even want to train, and he was healing. It was like, dude, you're going to have to fight. Mm-hmm. Or you're going to vacate the title. Right. And it's like he had to really cope with everything, and the personal things going on. He had a baby. His daughter couldn't hear, and you got to deal with that. And then you're still dealing with the identity struggle of your dad, because he didn't want that fight either. He didn't want the fight to go underneath that name. He had to say, well, you got to take your name, right, or the fight's not even going to happen,
right. And then the thing about it is that was the same premise of the first one, fighting Ricky, when the manager came to the restaurant and he was like, well, what if we say no? He's like, oh, well, you know, one thing, you have to fight under the name Creed. And this was, of course, after everybody found out that he was Apollo's son. And he's like, well, what if I say no? And he was like, well, it's a non-starter. It's like, either you fight under the name Creed or there's no fight. And he's basically leveraging it, because he's like, I know you want to fight, but
Right.
you're going to have to fight under the Creed name, or else there's not going to be a fight. And I just feel like, and that's why I was saying, like, you put them together, you have a complete movie, because I feel like we got so much more emotion with, not only Donnie proposing to Bianca, Bianca's progressive hearing loss getting worse, because that was
Right.
something that, it was touched on in the
We
first one.
touched
And
on in the first.
honestly, I completely forgot about how much of an impact that had on their relationship. Like, he literally he's pouring his heart out to her, and she's in the bathroom and she doesn't hear a word of it because she doesn't have her
Right.
hearing aids in. But, in the first movie, she could still hear a little bit without him in. She said she just had to put him in when there's like a lot of background noise. And we see that that's getting worse. And now she's pregnant. And what if the baby can't hear? And they go through the hearing test and we see, it's like, well, what do we look for? You're looking for spikes, just some kind of reaction to let let you
The
know
noise.
that
Right.
the brain can detect that it's hearing something. And how we don't see the computer screen, but we see
Mm.
Donnie's
His emotion.
face. We see Donnie's face, we see his emotions, and we
And we see
see
the tears fall.
Bianca see his face. And that scene was shot so beautifully because no words had to be said. And even to the point to where the nurse was starting to explain, was like, oh, well, sometimes it's still early, it could change. Even they drowned that out. Like, that's not
Right.
what we need to hear right now. What we need to focus on right now is what Donnie is feeling. And we see the emotion on his
Right.
face. We see the emotion on Bianca's face. And we
And
see
even
them.
the conversation afterwards with Sly telling him, "What are you gonna do if this is the reality? If this is not okay, like you need to process that." And he's like,
Right.
"Nah,
He's
you
like,
being
nah, I can't
negative.
think
Nah,
like that.
nah,
Right.
nah, you can't think like that." It's like you need to think this way.
And so for me, it's like having all of that, having not only Donnie's story, not only having Rocky's story and him coming to terms, because even like going back to him talking to Adrian, him talking to Paulie, talking about Bobby and what and even him and Donnie having a conversation as to, well, all you got to do is just pick up the phone and call him. And Rocky's like, you say that, but it's not that easy. And he's in the hospital and he got the phone, he's got the number, and all he has to do is dial the number, but he can't. He's so far removed from Bobby, and he's so afraid that Bobby's going to reject him and not want anything to do with him after so long, he can't even bring
Right.
himself to call him. And it's like so much more than just boxing in this movie. And I felt like
Right.
the first Creed was watching Donnie come to terms with who his father was, what his father's legacy is, accepting the Creed name. And so we got the boxing, we got him having that fight in the first one, and then I felt like the emotions were better.
That. It's funny that you say that because when you said he was shadow boxing against his father's video, he was fighting opposite of his father. It's almost like he was fighting his father versus him.
He was mimicking. No, he was mimicking Rocky fighting Apollo.
Right. To a point now in Apollo Creed 2. I mean, in Creed 2, he's going to the grave. He's talking to his father. He's introducing his family to his father. It's just like we've come a long way. So if you combine them together, you're right. You're absolutely right. It tells
it's really a complete story
versus picking it apart.
So I just felt like I said, it's not, Creed 2 is not a worse movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's a different movie, but I felt the action more in Creed 1. I felt the emotion more in Creed 2.
Are we? Let me ask this question before we wrap things up. Are we going to see the detriment of Creed 3 because Sylvester Stallone's not in it? Because we don't have that camaraderie, because we don't have those jokes to play off of, we're really looking at a totally different type of event. Because where's our B story going to come in at?
Right.
Don't get it twisted. We got the introductions of the daughter. I forgot her name.
Amara.
Amara. So maybe we'll touch on that a little bit. But again, for the ones that
and you're right, because like you said, are we going to get the side jokes? Are we going to get the humor? Because when Rocky asked Donnie, what are you going to name a child? He said Amara. He's like, oh, he's like, really? He's like, why not something easy to remember like Kate or like Becky? And Donnie's like, you do realize she's not white. You do realize she's black. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's like, like you said, it's having that like little those little jokes kind of thrown in there. I don't know where that's going to come from. And, because we had the same question about Ant-Man and Quantumania, because Paul Rudd is not writing on it, are we still going to have those same jokes? And in a sense, we did. We still got, there was a good bit of laughs in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, even though Paul Rudd wasn't, it's still Paul Rudd acting. But the difference between the two is we don't have Rocky in Creed 3. So there's nobody for Donnie to kind of play off of. Now, he does kind of joke around with Bianca a little bit. They have, some jokes and everything, but I don't know. And given that, Michael B. Jordan is directing, Ryan Coogler is still, associated with it, still, Sylvester Stallone still executive producing. I feel like Michael B. Jordan has he has a game plan that has been laid in front of him from the past two movies. So I think that he's going into it. I think that the people he has in his corner aren't going to let him fail. Okay. It may not be the same as the two movies that we just watched. But I think it's still going to, 2 wasn't the same from 1, but I think like we have this natural progression in storyline. So like we said at the top of the show, we're getting away from dealing with the things that Rocky had to deal with, because we get Rocky dealing with, feeling responsible for the death of Apollo. And then Creed 2, we get, Rocky's ghost coming back to haunt him and Drago. And so this was just as much Rocky's fight as it was Creed's fight. But now we're getting into solely Donnie's past. And so, again, this is progression of storytelling. So as far as the comedy, I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But I still feel like the story, the heart, the emotion is going to be there, because I would have to imagine that one of the biggest reasons that Donnie is reluctant to get back into the ring is because of Amara. Right, because of Amara, because like Marianne said, I only hope that you can be here for your child, right? And so...
Oh, that hit hard. That hit me in the gut. I was like, oh my God.
And so as from what we've seen in the trailer, we see that Damien is ruthless, right? He looks like a ruthless fighter. He looks like the type of person that will try to still...
on one knee. To punch you while you on one knee.
Right. He looks like the type that will still try to, beat you after the bell has rung. And so going into the ring with somebody that dangerous, who has that chip on their shoulder, who feels like that they have something to prove, who feels like, as he said in the trailer, you are living my life. Like I was supposed to be. Basically, Damien's like, I'm supposed to be where you are right now. And they're probably going to get into like maybe saying that Damien was the one that taught Donnie how to fight, and he taught him everything he knew growing up and all this other kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I'm going to say that I don't think that, at least in the joke aspect, I don't know if the jokes all of that is going to be the same, but I do think that it's still going to be a very emotional movie. I think it's going to be a heartfelt movie, and I think that they're going to again. This is part of the Rocky franchise. You're going to have your montages. You're going to have like great soundtrack. Rocky has always had a great soundtrack.
Here's a question, Spider. Let's just keep it 100. Last question: who will win the fight?
Creed.
That's what? Why? Because it's his movie.
Because it's a movie.
He didn't win the first. He didn't win the first fight. He won the second fight. He wasn't
supposed to win the first fight. He wasn't supposed to win the first fight. The fight against Pretty Ricky, he wasn't supposed to win. He was supposed to prove that he could hang with heavyweights.
Rocky is an underdog story. He does not win every fight. You're taking that same legacy and you're bringing it over to Creed, which they have shown already.
at the end of the day, when the movie, but right before the credits run, right before credits roll, unless, and I'll say this.
Oh, we're gonna do it like you can do it like Creed 2. He could lose the first one and come back the second one, which
but the thing about it is,
one.
I don't think that he's going to, because like we say, he's retired from fighting. He's done. He's fought, and so I think that Damien coming back, because we saw in the trailer, he's like, hey, come by the gym, you know, all this other kind of stuff. And we see Damien kind of get into it and all this other kind of stuff. Right. I think Damien is going to work his way up the ranks. He's going to win a championship. And then he's going to challenge Donnie to come out of retirement. He's like, 100%. I taught you everything you knew. You're living the life that I was supposed to have. I'm better than you. I can beat you. And he's going to antagonize him until he comes out of retirement.
Yeah, same thing Mr. T did, right? So Mr. T did that to Sylvester Stallone.
You're like, I'm better than you.
I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I'm better than you. Mr. T beat the brakes off everybody that wasn't the Italian Stallion.
Clubber.
Until he got
the name is Clubber. But
first of all,
but unless whatever, whether there's going to be another Creed after this, or whether this is the final movie of the trilogy, Creed is going to end up winning, because even if this is the final movie, I don't think that they're going to be like, oh, well, Creed's going to lose, and that's going to be like, oh, now I'm really done, and then end the movie like that. I can't see them doing it.
Yeah, why not? Because nothing's more important than family. Family. And that's what you walk away with. You walk away with, I got my family. Because, look, listen, it is laid out. Rocky has gone to the top of the mountain, and we've seen in subsequent films that he's also fallen from grace. He's had all the money, the prestige, and everything, and then he lost it all. Mm-hmm. Paulie bet the wrong horse. He bet against Rocky, and they lost. Rocky lost everything. That's not a victory. He had to go back to the streets. He was almost street fighting when he was fighting. What his name was? Billy Guns, Tommy Guns, somebody like that. Rocky V. Yeah, he was basically street fighting. It was almost a bare knuckle brawl. He had to go back to the streets.
But was that Rocky's fault?
I'm just saying, legacy of this history of Rocky, and we're borrowing from the legend.
Right. Well, we're borrowing from the legend, but we're not retelling the same story over again.
I don't know. We might see Apollo Creed's son, Adonis Creed, hang out them gloves and just rest easy on his morals that he got family.
I don't see it. I don't see it happening. There's no reason for him to come out of retirement just to lose.
Hey man, this is Rocky. This is Creed. There's no telling where they'll go with this story. I'm just saying, we thought Ant-Man and the Wasp was going to be stuck in the quantum realm, and they got out at the end.
And they should have been, because there's no reason that they should have got out, because the stupid thing was broken. But that has nothing to do with it. But let us know in the comments what you think about Creed and Creed 2. Are you excited for Creed 3? It is premiering this week. Yes, Jonathan Majors was in it. This is the year of Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors is everywhere.
Three films that he came out with: the Flying
Devotion.
There you go, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and then Creed 3.
Can you imagine how busy he is right now doing press tours for 2 movies at the same time?
Whew. And he's working out still.
I mean, you got to keep the physique up.
Yeah, you can't let that slip. Yeah, it's A-list quality meat work right there.
But look, punching cows in the freezer.
I just need him to fight Deadpool one time. That's it.
Jonathan Majors?
No. King the Conqueror. Why would Jonathan Majors punch Ryan Reynolds in the face?
Why would Kang fight Deadpool?
It's the MCU, baby. Anything can happen.
I don't know. That's two contrasting acting styles that I don't see working together in the same scene.
I would love to see that in the same
That would be
scene.
weird. But in any regards, let us know what you think about Creed 1 and Creed 2. Let us know what you think about the video. Leave us a comment below. But remember, if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can be notified when we have new episodes that come out. If you want the audio version of the podcast, just search for All Things Super on any major podcast streaming platform. And if you want to join in on the conversation, just tweet at us at ATSuperPod.
And leave a comment if you're not scared.
Leave a comment if you're not scared. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. But we like reading comments. But 2 days, we will see Creed 3, and we will be back with our review. Words are hard. I'm tired. It's been a long day. We will be back the next episode with our review and our breakdown of Creed 3. So get your tickets, go watch it, take it all in, come back next week when we review it. Shut up. You know what I mean? See, you threw me off of what I was saying. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all the love and support, and we will see you in the next episode.